And so Japan is a key player in the possible meeting between Trump and Kim. Japan has been a repeated target of North Korean aggression, missiles fired in the direction of Japan, direct and indirect threats, and so on. Therefore, North Korea is at the top of the Abe-Trump list of things to discuss. But what of this meeting between Pompeo and Kim? What do we know of the tenor, the substance, and the results of it? Joining me now from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., representing Virginia's 7th Congressional District, and member of the Liberty Caucus, Congressman David Brat. Congressman, so the president delivers this geopolitical bombshell. I'm calling it a geopolitical bombshell when you send your CIA chief over to meet with so-called Rocket Man, and he says in a tweet, Mike Pompeo met with Kim Jong-un in North Korea last week. Meeting went very smoothly, and a good relationship was formed. Details of summit are being worked out. Denuclearization will be a great thing for the world, but also for North Korea. This really is one of the brightest pieces of news coming out of the Korean Peninsula in many, many decades. What do you know about the meeting, if anything at all? What's your interpretation? Do you know anything about the tenor of the meeting, the substance, or the results?
Well, I'd just like to use the opportunity to put in a good word for Mike Pompeo. He's one of our colleagues on the House prior to CIA, and now he's up for a State Department position. And people that don't know his background, he was top in his class at Harvard and West Point. And West Point, I get the privilege of helping kids go to the military academy. And these kids are the top in the country. Grades, it's like getting into Harvard, Yale, whatever. And then they're also the best of the best in terms of their loyalty to the country. So Mike Pompeo goes to West Point, and he's #1 in his class at West Point, and then Harvard, and then Congress. He's from Kansas. And so, I mean, you like to put your faith in quality people. He's a quality people. He's well-liked by both Democrats and Republicans. Right now, they're playing politics with him on the Senate side,
right.
But that's the caliber of person and the intellect that's talking to Korea.
Right.
And so when you're talking about denuclearization, you're right. That is a bombshell. If that's even in play, that's totally new for decades, and it's great news. And so I'll be cautiously optimistic, but I want to be optimistic.
The Kansas comet goes to Pyongyang, I guess is what the headline should be in the New York Times. I doubt if they'll take my word for that. So you touched on the confirmation process for Secretary of State for Pompeo. Tim Kaine, who supported him, CIA, and Jeanne Shaheen supported him, CIA. Both are saying they're not going to support him. He may not even get out of committee. That doesn't mean, of course, he won't be confirmed as Secretary of State with a simple majority in the greater Senate. So do you believe that there's just politics going on here? They want to deliver to Donald Trump the Democrats do, some political angst?
Yeah, I mean, it is astonishing, right? I mean, people need to ask Tim Kaine on the substance, whatever, on his political philosophy or whatever. You know, talk to your colleagues in the House, and I wish the news media, they'll never do that, right? Go interview people about the character of Mike Pompeo from the House, Democrats, and put them on the record in front of a TV camera and say, hey, what do you know of him? Did everybody respect him intellectually and as a colleague in good faith? And the answer is yes, across the board. So, of course, this is just politics. I mean, he's eminently qualified. He's head of the CIA right now. And we've had people running for the head of state with far less credentials than Pompeo, and so it's one calculation is left. It's politics up in the swamp.
Also out of the Senate, don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to punctuate what was going on in the Senate because you're a constitutionalist. I try to adhere to the United States Constitution. You had this move afoot, which has now been killed by the Majority Leader McConnell, to pass legislation to so-called protect Robert Mueller and his special counsel search and destroy mission. I'm laughing because it's a phony effort. Number one, constitutionally, do these people not understand that it would be a violation of the Constitution, that we have this thing called separation of powers, that the legislative branch can't tell the executive branch what to do? And number two, they also have to realize that the President of the United States has this thing called a veto pen, and if it even got to his desk, it would never become law. What are they thinking?
Yeah, well, you hate to reiterate, but it is politics, right? The Mueller investigation hinges on what's been covered by CNN every hour for the last year,
right.
Russian connection in the election, right? And so there's no evidence in on that. And so, yeah, they're going forward on every front possible, violating, as you say, the lines between the branches, and because there's no evidence in yet of collusion, right? And so they're off on every horse chase they can go on.